Welcome to Taking Stock. I'm Amanda Lang. Coming up on the show, while an increased number of Canadians are hit with viruses, health officials say masking could help a lot, but no one wants to make it mandatory. And the gap between what people need to live and what they earn is a problem, and it's only getting worse. Plus, General Motors plans to build electric cars in Canada. Do we have what it takes to help them make that a reality? That's all ahead. First, for the week that was in business, it's time for the briefs. Inflation remained high but steady in October at 6.9%, matching price increases from the previous month. The data suggests that while another rate hike is still likely next month, it may just be a quarter of a percentage point. Although price gains remain high, it looks increasingly as though inflation may have seen its high watermark back in June when it rose 8.1%. It will add fuel to arguments that the bank should stop raising rates while previous hikes take effect. A growing number of health officials are now calling for increased masking in public spaces, but stopping short of mask mandates. The concern is a rising number of virus cases, not just COVID, but RSV and the flu. Those are overwhelming the healthcare system. Children in particular are showing a spike in cases and crowding hospitals in search of care. The United States may have a plan to invest in Canada's mining industry as it ups its focus on a secure supply of some of the resources needed for technology old and new. Canada is a supplier of 13 of the 35 minerals the state has determined is crucial to its industrial security. Miners in the so-called Ring of Fire, a resource-rich area in northern Ontario, said they've had early talks with the U.S. Department of Defense about funding projects. The province of Ontario is abandoning its surplus in favor of spending its windfall revenues. Its fall fiscal update suggests the province is tracking to a $12.9 billion deficit this fiscal year. The update outlined billions to be spent on infrastructure, including highways and hospitals, and some measures aimed at making life more affordable for the most vulnerable. An employee of Hydro-Quebec is accused of spying on China's behalf, and Yusheng Wang was denied bail this week as a court in Quebec deemed him a flight risk. Wang has been charged with fraud, breach of trust, and unauthorized use of a computer. Dairy exporter New Zealand is accusing Canada of bad faith when it comes to free trade in dairy. New Zealand is a global leader in dairy exports and says Canada is not living up to its promise to allow international product into the Canadian market. Canada's supply management system, which protects domestic dairy as well as poultry and eggs, is often a source of criticism from our trading partners. And those are your business briefs. Well, there's little question that viruses are on the rise in Canada. Young people are being hit with the flu and the childhood virus known as RSV. That's causing children's hospitals to be overrun and absenteeism in schools. Meanwhile, COVID is still hanging around. Health officials may be recommending masking, but it seems no one wants to return to anything involuntary. Dr. Kashif Pirzada is an emergency room physician in Toronto. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Give me your sense of the state of things right now. There's some fatigue around the idea of going back to any kind of mandates, but should we be masking at this moment?
I think it's a good idea. Like, the hospitals are under a lot of stress right now, especially when it comes to caring for children. If you go to any ER right now, anywhere in the country, even the United States and Europe, you'll find people with cough and cold symptoms, and it hits kids very hard. And we're having to hospitalize a lot of them, requiring oxygen, IV fluids. So it is a good idea right now just to take the burden off the hospitals at this moment.
We've heard about this notion that because younger kids were masked and separated, they weren't exposed to viruses. So this is almost kind of a slingshot or rebound effect. Will this pass? In other words, if we wait it out, will we get back to a more normal situation where kids' immune systems are doing what they should be doing?
That's one theory. Another theory is that, subsequent COVID infections have harmed immune systems as well. Nobody really knows what's causing this surge. It's kind of a thing that hit all of us by surprise when this started in mid-October. But what's important right now is that we need to buy hospitals some breathing room. Whether, we can figure out what caused this later, but right now, hospitals are running at double, triple capacity when it comes to caring for kids, and we need a breather right now.
So is it frustrating to hear, health officials stopping short of saying masks go back on if you're in certain places? They're saying they should be worn. They're strongly recommending them. But even in schools, we don't have mandates. Is that setting us up for bigger problems?
It sounds like it, and especially now, influenza is starting to ramp up as well, so that we're starting to see more cases of that. So it could get worse from this point. So it's frustrating that health officials are hesitant on this point. At least put it in the areas where it's an epicenter of cases, which is schools. You don't have to do it in all of society. We really need to not think of masks as a scarlet letter of this pandemic. We need to think of them as a tool to use when the time is right. And when hospitals are overwhelmed, the time is right to use them. We can take it away like we did before, but now is a good time to use them again.
And of course, it does point to this notion that if we did get to a much more serious state where we had to go back to mandates, would you worry as a doctor that there's a certain amount of fatigue and therefore reluctance? In other words, people won't be as compliant next time around because it's become a bit political, perhaps, for some.
It has become political, unfortunately, and that is a reality. But I hope we can move beyond that. The U.S. election was kind of a vote against polarization, and we need to go and do what most of the rest of the world is doing, is look at it as a tool to use in heavy winter months like what we're heading into. And don't think of it as a political issue, not a freedom issue. It's just protecting yourself and your family, and that's what it's good for.
Are you worried about the state of hospitals right now?
Oh, definitely. We are under a lot of stress. It's never amazing, but we've never seen a strain like this at this time of year. Usually it's Christmas time, New Year's, when it's a heavy strain. It happening so early, so quickly, and so hard, it's very, very, very hard to absorb for the hospital community.
Doctor, it's great to have your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kashif Pirzada is an emergency room physician in Toronto. Coming up, we all know affordability is an issue in Canada, but the cost of living compared to minimum wage can still be a shocker. Stay with us.